It's the defender side. You're not playing really well, so you decide to do a risky play and go for the push. But then this happens. And within a second, the teammate is raging on you. Why you push? Stay on side. Wow, 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 wah, 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 wah. If you play Valorant for a while, this is probably very relatable. It just feels like every teammate thinks that playing on side is the only way to play this game. They think that pushing on the defender side is always bad. But this is simply not the case. If you know when, where, and how to play aggressive, you can get so much value in a round for you and your teammates. And today I'm gonna teach you that. We're going back to the basics, my friends. I'll go over different type of pushes, when, how, and where to use them. Take a look at some professional games, and at the end of this video you can use these pushes to win easy peasy. Let's start with the why. Why could pushing be so important? Pushing on the defender side has multiple benefits, but the two most obvious ones are getting control over a map and catching the enemies by surprise. Even though I'm 100% certain that you know what both of these things mean, I believe that showing examples really explains the importance of these two things during a game. And I think this round over here explains both things perfectly. By looking at the scoreboard, you might notice that we lost the first round of this game. This meant that in the second round we had to go eco, and usually eco rounds are the rounds that you can go for some crazy strategies. And since my teammate said in this round that he heard a lot of steps on A main, I decided to go for the classic push. First I want to talk about the getting control over the map part. Like you see, I managed to get all the way to the end of A main. This meant that we knew that there's a high chance that all the enemies were in A main. Why is this so important? Well, look at the minimap again. Because I can't control over the back of A main and we heard so many steps over there, all my teammates could rotate towards A. We as a team basically got control over all this part of the map, and the enemies only had control over this part of the map. If they were to push into A, all my teammates would be waiting there for the enemies, and if they decide to rotate and I stay silent, there's a chance they walk into my crosshair and I catch them with the element of surprise. And this was exactly what happened in this round. Oh la la! The round I just showed you is something I call the classic flank. You push deep, trying to flank around the enemies and get them from behind. And before I talk about the next type of pushes, I need to give you a few tips if you want to use the classic flank. The most important thing you have to keep in mind before you push into the enemy's territory is that information and timing is everything. I would only use this type of push if you're certain that all the enemies are at one specific spot and your teammates can hold that spot. Here's one more small example. In this round all my teammates were holding B and we knew that the enemies were B main, so this is a good moment to cut the enemies off.
Well, this is one of those times where you cut the enemies off, right?
And when you're sneaking, listen to the steps so you know when to peek or when to hold.
A lot of steps.
Yeah, I'm going back. Nice.
This is a moment where you cut the enemies off. That's
And after you get kills, the element of surprise is gone, so then you just go back to your team and play with them. And now the very last tip about this type of push, you don't have to do it alone. You can also go with your teammate, and the good thing about that is that if your teammate dies, you can always try to go for a refrag. A bit like I did in this round. I was following Chamber and when he died, I got the enemy. And very important fact, I said it before, but it's so important. Look where I'm walking to now. I'm walking back to my team through the safe route. Don't keep pushing forward, because the element of surprise is gone and the enemy will just kill you. The next push we're gonna talk about is pushing for control. And for this, we're gonna take a look at Fnatic's game. Question for you, do you notice something if you look at the minimap? I give you a second, something out of the ordinary. If you spotted ISO and Astra, then you might have noticed that they were pushing into A main. They peek deep into main, spot Omen, and after that ISO runs back towards side while Astra stays in main. This type of push is very different than a flank I showed in last round. The goal of this push is to take control over the small part of the map, and after that keep that control for the rest of the round. The reason why taking control over one small part of the map is very important is because suddenly the enemies will become way more predictable. There's one less spot that they can push from, and if they were to push through a short, for example, retaking suddenly becomes way easier because you can peek the enemies from two sides instead of one. I was using that trick in this round over here. I pushed into A main, got control over it, the enemies were pushing A short, and then I simply picked them off one by one.
Something? 3 on mid. With the garden already. Two garden. Kaya.
One enemy remaining.
And the fact that a professional team like Fnatic is doing this proves that you shouldn't be listening to your teammate that says that you should play from the side all the time. But now, before I go to the next type of push, I need to give you some tips about this one. First of all, if you want to go for a control push type of play, always go together with your teammate to get that control. This way, when the enemies are going for an aggressive push, for example, and they kill you, at least your teammate can refrag you. But my friends, as soon as you get control over the part where you wanted to get control of, you now have way more info about the enemies, so that's the moment when your teammate can go back to your team and help them on another spot. Just like Fnatic did, right? Astra and ISO were pushing, and when they got control, ISO went back to their team. And then the last thing about this type of play, don't do it every round, because if the enemies expect you doing this, they can try to go for a counterplay, and that's not very good, so be unpredictable. Next type of push. This one I call the counter push. In some games you might notice that the enemies are doing the same thing over and over and over again. Maybe on Icebox, for example, the enemies keep pushing A every round, and the bad thing, they are completely wrecking you every round. Something needs to change. Holding from side doesn't work, so what can you do then? You can do a counter push. Something like this, for example. Oh! Oh! It worked! It worked! The goal for counter push is not to take control over the map, not to cut the enemies off, but the reason you go for a counter push is to make a quick kill and then go back to your team. There are multiple factors to make a counter push successful, but the most important one is the element of surprise. If they don't expect you, making a kill should be easy peasy. Like this operator kill in mid. In this game nobody peeked mid for the whole game, so clearly the enemies weren't expecting me, and that's how I could pick up an easy kill.
We're not here.
Here's some tips for the counter push. Make sure to use utility, a flash, a ray satchel, or even a dash to dash away. And if you want to go for a counter push, working together with a teammate is oh so strong. Let your teammate like sky flash in, then push together, and maybe you get some kills in an eco round.
There. Oh no, 105.
I know, in this example we both died, but if you get one kill in the eco round, it's often already good enough. Let's now move on and take a look at pushing on the attacker side. Huh? Mr. Lowlander pushing on the attacker side? That's good, right? I mean, in the end you need to enter the side. Yes, my friends, pushing on the attacker side is what you should be doing, but there are also some pushes that a lot of people consider way too aggressive. Well, if you use them good, you can actually win more rounds with them. So I'm gonna teach you when you should be pushing a little more aggressive on the attacker side, and for that we need to take a look at this example. This one I call the aggressive lurk push. Here's the situation. In this round my whole team was on B side. They already showed the spike to the enemy, and I personally was lurking on A. And since the enemy spotted the spike, I heard a lot of steps going away from A towards B.
We can go back, let's go back, guys.
It's clear.
So, in this situation, I had control over A side, right? So it might only make sense to stay on A side, keep that control, wait for my team and don't push further. But this, my friends, is not the best way of playing this round. Instead of staying on side, it made sense to push further and then cut the enemies off and catch them by surprise. A bit like I did in the sunset round I showed a minute ago, only now on the attacker side instead of the defender side. And the question, did it work out?
One enemy remaining.
Whoa! Of course, my friend, easy kills for me. This type of play all comes back to map awareness and doing things with information. Since I heard those enemies running towards B, I knew that most of them were on B side, and that's why I felt confidence to push forward. Let's move on now. Next type of push on the attacker side. Imagine, you planted the spike and you have to play post plant. What the golden rule is of the post plant is that you plant in the open, go off the side, and hold the spike from there. But what if you do something else? What if you try to flank behind the enemies? Introducing the post plant flank. Or basically just flanking for short. Just take a look at this round. In this round I planted the spike on B and I went short. We didn't have a lot of info about the enemies, but I knew that at least one guy was in showers. And I was afraid of that enemy, because usually I like to play lineups. I already did that a few times this game, so I was afraid that the enemy from shower was about to push me. So instead I went on the walk and went on a flank myself. The reason why flanking like this in the post plant is so extremely strong is because, again, the element of surprise. But really think about this one. The enemy just was in showers. He checked it and they didn't see anyone. And because they just checked it, there's no way that they will check it again. And you're gonna make use of that and win an 1 versus 4.
Last player standing.
Okay, yeah, I died, I know, but the spike went off, so we won the round 1 versus 4, easy peasy. But now let me give you some tips about this play. First of all, timing is everything. So it's important that you know when to walk and when to run. Let's rewind this last round and look at how I'm walking. First, I'm walking silent around the corner, because there was a chance that the enemy from showers was pushing me and I didn't want him to hear me. But as soon as I realized that the enemy from showers wasn't pushing me, I started running. Because if you look at the minimap, my running circle was out of range of sight. But as soon as that running circle was on sight, I started walking again. This way I was as fast as I could be without making sound for the enemy, and I was just in time before the enemies realized there was something fishy going on. A very important aspect of this type of play. Of course, this is just one example on one map, but you can do this type of play on a lot of spots. On B main from long to hookah, for example. On Haven from C through garage, and a lot more, even through the defender spawn, like over here on Abyss. Whoa! So my friends, in this video I talked about a lot of different type of pushes. I know I did a lot of talking, but now it's time for you to make action. Try to hop into a game and focus on when you can push and when you can't push. Think about controlling the map and the element of surprise, and let me know in the comments when you've made some successful pushes. Good luck with your competitive games, and I see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.